Okay, guys, welcome back. Professor Ader here. I'm going to continue talking about the Civil War, and we're going to start with Fredericksburg. We talked about the generals, and we had Winfield Scott, and then Irwin McDowell, George McClellan. And the next guy that's in charge is Ambrose Burnside. Now, Ambrose Burnside takes the northern objective of attacking the strength of the army, the opposing army. He takes it literally. He sees Lee's strong position, and he says, well, let's go. And he goes and attacks, and he loses. And people are like, why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And Burnside ends up quitting his job because of this. And Fighting Joe Hooker takes over. At Chancellorsville, we have one of the greatest victories for the South in the Civil War. Robert E. Lee is totally outmatched. He has about half the number of troops as the North. And one night, as he's sitting around the campfire with Stonewall Jackson, they come up with a plan. And Lee is basically going to keep about 18,000 troops with him. And he's going to send the rest of his guys, about 28,000, with Jackson. And Jackson and the 28,000 guys are going to come around to the side, and they're going to attack Hooker's right flank. Now, Jackson moves on. He has 3 divisions of troops, and it's a long, not necessarily distance-wise, but it's a long trek in that they're going to be tired by the time they get there. When they show up, they're waiting on their 3rd division. They can't wait anymore, so they start attacking. They're attacking through some really thick forest. It's said that the sunlight doesn't even reach the bottom of these trees because it's so dense, it's so thick. And as they move through these trees, they move very slowly. As a matter of fact, a lot of the guys say they can't even see the rest of the guys in their line. So some are moving really fast, some are moving slower. You might see 2 or 3 guys, and that's it. But they do take the North completely by surprise. As a matter of fact, it's so thick that a lot of the sound doesn't carry. So there's a lot of Northern troops that don't know that they're getting attacked until other Northern troops run past them, retreating. This victory goes on until it becomes too dark to fight. And Jackson says, you know what, I've got to keep this going. I can't stop now. I've got to make sure that the North isn't allowed to dig in and kind of set up, and then we have to fight them when they're ready for us tomorrow morning. So there's one main road that goes kind of through this area, and it's well lit because there's a full moon this night. And Jackson says, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to scout this forward position. The Confederates are a little bit spooked because there's this regiment from the North that they've gotten lost, and they just kind of show up around the Confederates, and the Confederates are like, whoa, you're not supposed to be here. Also, Jackson finds out that there's this kind of side road that nobody really knows about. It's not on any maps, and it kind of runs parallel to that main road. So Jackson moves forward, and he's scouting. At the same time, the Union is scouting back toward the Confederate troops. As they kind of pass each other, the Union troops are discovered because they're on the main road and they're lit up by this moon, and they get fired upon. And everybody dies except for the main general for the Union. Well, as they continue moving back toward camp, coming from the direction of the Union troops, some regiments from North Carolina start shooting at Jackson and his guys. And Jackson's men say, stop, you're shooting at your own guys. Well, anybody that was getting shot might lie about what's going on. So the Confederate troops are like, you're not tricking us. No. They keep shooting, and they end up shooting Stonewall Jackson 3 times. Once in the right hand, once in the left forearm, and once about 3 inches below his shoulder on the left side. Stonewall Jackson is carried to an ambulance and carried to a field hospital there. They end up amputating his left arm. All accounts, he's a pretty good patient. He doesn't really complain about anything. Um, when Lee hears about this, he sends a letter and he says, basically, I heard you were wounded and you weren't doing so hot, and I wish for the nation that it was me instead of you. Lee basically says it would be better for the Confederacy if I were to die than you, Jackson. You're so awesome. When Lee hears about Jackson having his left arm amputated, Lee says he's lost his left arm, but I've lost my right arm. I've lost my guy that's there for me, my right-hand man. Jackson continues to worsen. He ends up getting more and more delusional. He starts barking out orders as if he's still on the battlefield, even though he's resting comfortably in a bed. And right before he dies, he hollers out, "Order A.P. Hill to prepare for action. Pass the infantry to the front rapidly. Tell Major Hawks." And then he just stops. And he kind of lays back and he gets this big smile on his face and he says, "Let us cross over the river and rest under the shade of the trees." And Jackson dies. General Lee has to continue from this. From Jackson being shot by his own men and dying 8 days later. He moves back into the north. He's tried this once at Antietam and it didn't work, but he moves to the north to try to take over some northern territory. Unfortunately, the place that he goes is Gettysburg. Gettysburg is going to happen from July 1st to July 3rd of 1863. It follows Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville. He's now moved all the way up here into Gettysburg. Here you can see the Union positions are all on ridges, Round Top, that's a hill, Culp's Hill, Cemetery Hill, ridges. So the Confederacy is going to have to try to charge through flat land toward hills, which is not ideal. George Mead's the guy that took over. He's that goggle-eyed snapping turtle. And he does an admirable job. He has 92,000 guys versus 76,000 for the Confederates. The battle lasts 3 days, and nobody really knows who's going to win. George Picket leads this charge. He's told to charge. He has to charge across basically open ground. His troops are just annihilated, just awful. Lee had this plan to where they would fight this battle and negotiators would show up in D.C. right as he wins the battle. However, because he's losing, these negotiators show up to D.C. and they're not allowed in. Why would we talk to you? You're losers. Lincoln goes not long after Gettysburg. He dedicates it as a memorial, and he gives the Gettysburg Address. Starting with 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Calls back to the Declaration of Independence. Guys, we're all the same. By the end, he says that government of the people and by the people and for the people shall not perish from this earth. Guys, we're going to pick up with Vicksburg in the next video. The link for that will be down in the scooter parking below here. Thank you guys. See you next time.